Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out today. I have my MOAA membership card here in my pocket, and I joined the local chapter here when we walked in. So it's glad to be among friends and family. Thanks so much for your interest in coming out to listen to the candidates so you can be informed, because this election is very important. For those who don't know much about my background, I'll tell you very quickly. I served 26 years in uniform. I was an Air Force Academy distinguished graduate. I was a Rhodes Scholar regional finalist, which means that I made the last 6, but I didn't make the last 4 to go to Oxford. So my runner-up prize mark was to go to Harvard, even though I left the room. As a second lieutenant, I went off to Harvard for 2 years and got a master's in public policy with a focus on international security. From there, I went off to pilot training because I wanted to fly jets, but at that time it was against the law for women to be fighter pilots. But I had just declared when I was at the Air Force Academy that I was going to be a fighter pilot and the law was going to change. Well, having nothing to do with my experience or anything I did, I was in the right place at the right time when the law changed. And in 1994 or 1993, I was in the first group of 7 women selected to become fighter pilots in the Air Force. I had the privilege to come to Davis-Monthan Air Force Base to fly the mighty A-10 Warthog, which is the world's best close air support aircraft. I chose that airplane over the F-16, the F-15, the F-15E, and the F-111 because I wanted to be in a role where you show up when Americans are on the ground, under fire, and needing your help. And there's nothing more satisfying than showing up overhead, talking to Americans, and giving them the opportunity to live to fight another day and get home to their families. That is what it's all about. So I came to Davis-Monthan, trained in the A-10, and I was privileged to be the first woman to fly in combat in 1995. And later on, when I came back to Davis-Monthan, I was the first woman to command a fighter squadron in U.S. history, also in combat. I have 325 combat hours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and earned a Bronze Star and 6 air medals for my combat time and combat leadership. Under my command, the 354th Bulldogs here at Davis-Monthan, we won the Air Force Association David C. Schilling Award for the best contribution in the field of flight in 2005. So it was very privileged and honored to have led that team. I also worked for Senator Kyle for a year as a legislative fellow. Instead of going off to command and staff school, I got the opportunity to actually go work on Capitol Hill. So I got to see up close and personal how things get done, or don't get done these days, in Washington, D.C. And that experience really sat with me. Later on, soon after that, I gained national attention. You may remember me because I took on the Pentagon because they were making our U.S. servicewomen wear Muslim garb whenever they were off base in Saudi Arabia. This is a very long story, but for 6 years I was trying to get this policy changed. That was a U.S. military policy only, a 2-star general policy. I went up and down 2 chains of command to fight for the troops that this was applying to, and as I was leaving Senator Kyle's office, they actually ordered me to go to Saudi myself. It kind of came to a head. Then they basically told me to put on a burqa as soon as I landed. Again, very long story. I complied with the regulation, although I believed it was wrong. Continued to try and work within the system. But on my way out of that assignment, I filed litigation on the matter. You don't just wake up in the morning and decide to file McSally versus Rumsfeld, okay? Like, what are you going to do today? Oh, I think I'll just, light myself on fire, and, ruin my entire, hope for any kind of future. At that point, I had been promoted 2 years ahead of my peers to major and 2 years ahead of my peers to lieutenant colonel. So on paper, I was on track to be a senior leader in the Air Force. But from the day I entered the Air Force Academy, I was told that this oath of office means something, and all of you who have served know what I'm talking about. And as an officer, your oath of office is only to the Constitution of the United States. It is only to defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I was trained from the day I was a cadet that sometimes you're going to have to stand up and show moral courage. Sometimes you may have to stand alone if you really believe that something's wrong. And I came to that place where I looked myself in the mirror and I knew that I had to stand, that no one wanted to stand with me, and sometimes you have to stand alone. So I did what I did after much thought and prayer and mentoring, and I don't regret it. Because we needed to take this on. It was unconstitutional, it was bad for the mission, it was bad for the troops, it was bad for good order of discipline, it was dysfunctional on so many levels. I then asked to come back to Tucson as we were working our way through the courts. I had been a White House fellow national finalist at that point, but I was told my career was over, so I withdrew and asked to come home. And as I was working its way through the courts, I said, you know what, God bless America, we have 3 branches of the government. And I was a legislative fellow. And I worked for our time. I had to get legislation passed. And the defense bill's coming up right about now. So no kidding, I sat down and we started typing up legislation of what would an amendment look like to the defense bill if we were going to just turn this thing once and for all, overturn it. And it's an amazing story how 10 days later, from literally, sitting typing up what this bill or this amendment would look like, 10 days later, this thing was voted on unanimously on the floor of the House of Representatives, and I got to witness it. It's amazing. I got sponsors in the House and the Senate, Democrats and Republicans. We attached it as an amendment to the defense bill in the Senate, and I took military leave and I shepherded this thing until we got it signed into law December 2nd, 2002, which was 8 years after I started that battle. Thank you. 8 years seems like a long time, but I'm an endurance athlete. I've run 14 marathons and 2 Ironman triathlons, to include the one in Hawaii. So it's part of the fiber and the fabric of who I am that when other people quit, I just keep going. It's just the way I was made, and I just got a lot of endurance, and I've got a lot of perseverance, and I got a lot of grit. And that's what we're missing right now in Washington, D.C. I am stepping up to serve because I care so deeply about our country, serving 26 years in uniform, and many of you, I know, you all care deeply about your country. We've raised our right hand to defend it. We put our lives on the line for it. We've led people in combat in order to defend the things that we care about, our freedoms, the foundations of who we are, and everything we believe in. And so much of that is at stake right now. And we're going in the wrong direction. Our economy continues to be stagnant. Our debt is out of control. Our border is not secure. We need real health care reform, which isn't happening. We've got a potential nuclear Iran. We've got vital national interests all over in China that are being impacted right now. We have ambassadors being murdered. I mean, this is serious business. We have a lot at stake. And we need people in Washington, D.C. that have the experience, the leadership, the education, the moral courage, and know how to get results done in order to knuckle down and actually do the job. Congress is failing right now. I mean, they've got like a 10% rating, and they continue to kick the can on all these important issues because they're more concerned about their next election than the next generation. Yes. And that's just wrong. And I am stepping up to serve because do you know that the oath of office of a member of Congress is the same exact oath of office as a military officer? Word for word. So I consider this deeply my next assignment in civilian clothes. And I'm excited to step up and serve the people of Southern Arizona. We have a lot that we need to fight for, and we need somebody who's ready to go there and not just cross the aisle, but to define where the aisle is. We need someone who's actually going to make things happen, someone who's actually going to get legislation passed, someone who's actually going to lead the way so that we can actually solve these problems and protect what we believe in. And that's what I'm bringing to the fight. This is a very important race, and I'm excited and ready to represent you starting January 3rd. So thanks for your time.
Any questions for Martha? We're running a little late here, so we're going to move on. Ted Vaught is here, and he's going down to Sierra Vista for Sheriff Deaver's funeral.